small crypto purchases are no longer taxable. So if the gain is less than $300, it is not a taxable event. There's a $5,000 cap on a yearly basis. So in some sense, you can use it as a currency.
Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast. Are you curious about the latest news in the world of cryptocurrency? I'm Casey Smith. Today I'm joined with Robert Swarthout, founder, CEO, portfolio manager of Teton Crypto Capital. Each week we bring you practical advice on retirement, investing, and planning for your financial future. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. Let's get started. Hey, Robert.
How's it going?
It's doing great.
Yeah.
Everything's great.
Yeah.
It's
Summertime.
hot.
It's very hot.
It's super hot.
Yeah. I'm happy to be inside. Normally I'm outside in the mornings working on my wife's horse property, but to be inside to record a podcast is quite pleasant.
I love how you phrase that. My wife's horse property.
Yeah.
Like you're like the number one volunteer there.
Yes, or slave labor or something. I don't know, something.
How's your pilot's license going?
It's going slowly. I'm slowly working on an instrument.
You got the private done now, which I think we congratulated you about. And now you're working on instrument training.
Yeah, and it's admittedly I haven't had tons of time to focus on it, so it's going slow right now. But did a 3-leg trip a week or so ago from Atlanta out to Charleston, then Hilton Head, then back. So it's fun. Yeah.
What's your biggest surprise for instrument training so far?
Just all the time in between. That just kind of like feels like, what am I supposed to be doing? You're just flying somewhere, not really doing anything. But so, I am super early. I maybe 5 hours into it at this point. So, yeah.
Well, aviation is a lot like watching paint dry. Yes. And then followed by 20 seconds of sheer terror, right?
Yeah. I think I was telling you, that was the trip where we came back to Atlanta and we were dodging thunderstorm cells to get back into McCollum. Yeah. And then we had this tunnel that we could see literally paralleling or directly down the runway at McCollum. Yeah. And we landed and it was just like, probably got there. If we had gotten there 5 minutes later, it wouldn't have been an option. So It was just on the ground in time.
Right. We call those sucker holes.
Yes. But it worked.
You're not a sucker.
Not a sucker this time.
Landing's different, but when you're cruising across the country and you see this hole and you go through the hole, usually on the other side is not something very nice greeting you.
Right. Yeah. Well, we knew there was a cell, I don't know, 5 miles west of there. So it was coming. Yeah, so it was like either get down or hold for a while.
Right. So, exactly. Hey, you need to practice holding though.
Well, that's what today's ground is all about. That's where I'm headed after this.
That's cool. It's nice that they can use so much, simulators have advanced so much of these flight schools. Yeah. I didn't really have that option when I was coming up. You just had to get out there and bare holes in the sky sometimes. So
yeah,
that's cool. Well, let's get back to crypto. So let's talk about the big beautiful bill. I just did a little quick video with Shauna about personal finance related to the big beautiful bill. Yeah. But we didn't really touch on crypto. So let's talk about how that changed the world for crypto. I understand that I can't I have to worry about wash sales now.
Yeah. And that was a benefit of crypto.
Dang it. It's only gone up. So maybe that helped because now we can't get out.
So I did in the fund, we did a little bit of early tax loss harvesting. We had an opportunity earlier in the spring. So we did some. In hindsight, it was great because that was, for those that don't know, equities, you obviously have to wait 30 days to rebuy something or 31 days to capture the loss. Crypto, you could literally buy it a second later after you sold it. And that was beautiful.
Right. Right.
Now that will be going away. I don't think it's fully in effect yet. But I think certainly by the end of the year.
Well, what that means is that crypto is becoming now more mainstream and on par with securities. Yeah. And how they're treated.
I part of me is complaining, but most of me is not. Admittedly, like I knew this day would come. Like I was in some ways you look forward to it because you knew you were growing up a little bit as an industry. Now. Yes, absolutely. So anyways, we that was one of the 5 things that was crypto related in the bill. Another thing was small crypto purchases are no longer taxable. So if the gain is less than $300, it is not a taxable event. There's a $5,000 cap on a yearly basis. So in some sense, you can use it as a currency, right?
Yeah, right.
I would say this probably more applies to using stablecoins than anything else. The other tokens are probably going to move, depending on how much you hold, enough to where like $300 gain could come into the equation.
Right. But why would a stable coin move that much? The whole point is it's a stable coin.
It's stable, but it's like there's like fractions of a penny, right? So it's like you might have a small gain or loss depending on when you bought it and what the market.
If you moved a large transaction,
or just like the market's a little bit different than when you bought versus when you're selling it. So, it's fractions of a penny, maybe thousands or tens of thousands of a penny difference. But that's technically a different value. So is now, or I guess the tax part goes away now. So, you don't have to pay taxes. And this is the third thing. You don't have to pay taxes on staking or mining until you sell the actual token. Up until this point, this was a big one. This is a sticking point that a lot of crypto people, especially the ones that were doing staking and mining, really grumbled about, because you were still holding your tokens if you're staking.
Yeah.
And then you were getting these rewards, think of them as interest. And in the meantime, they were taxing the reward, and then they were taxing it again if you were to sell it. So it felt like double taxation. You can make an argument, I think, that it was.
Right.
That part is going away. You don't pay taxes on staking or mining. You get to collect, and then if you go to sell a portion or all of what you hold, then it would be, the taxes would be figured out at that point. Capital gains. Yeah. So crypto is treated just like any stock would be. So short-term and long-term capital gains.
Okay. But if you're a person who's mining, that's kind of your income. So you're getting taxed at 15 or 20%.
Right. Yeah. Because miners, I've never personally mined enough to where it really mattered, but like I've heard miners kind of take two strategies. One is they have constant costs, electricity being the big one, cooling, data centers. So they have to constantly sell what they're mining to kind of pay for expenses. Others that have, I guess, bigger bankrolls, they'll sell in waves, kind of when the market's up versus when it's down. Yeah. So they'll kind of throw them in a piggy bank for a while, and then they will go and sell them bigger lots, OTC. A lot of times, a lot of these miners are selling to the ETFs at this point. So
that makes sense.
Yep. A fourth thing on the list is lending your crypto doesn't trigger a taxable event. So this is another thing. So there was lending platforms, whether it's DeFi or even a CeFi platform, where you could come in and lend your Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever that they offered. That was considered a taxable event. You got taxed on it and reset your basis. Not exactly optimal, because you were trying to probably just get cash flow from it. Yeah. Now that does not trigger a taxable event. Nice, clean, simple. And I believe this is the same way that a loan against your equity portfolio would act. So I think there's a lot of alignment that's happening with these rules here. So
makes sense.
And the fifth thing that was crypto related that did not make it in the bill, but was close, was they tried to ban politicians from shilling crypto, advertising, pumping and dumping, all the things. But it failed. So they still can do that.
The Trump coin.
The Trump one is probably the best example.
Right.
Yes. But going into the vote on the Big Beautiful Bill, I wasn't paying all that close attention to all this. And then it passed, and this list came out. I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of good. There was obviously, the bill's massive and no one's reading the whole thing.
Right.
But it's cool to kind of see this kind of stuff got slipped in there. And it wasn't had this happened a year ago or 2 years ago, and we had a Big Beautiful Bill then, it would have been 5 things that we hated.
Right.
Not 4 things and 1 thing that missed. So,
right. Yeah. Speaking of reading the whole bill, I asked Grok, I said, hey, give me the personal finance highlights of the bill.
You're right.
And what's interesting is it gave me that, but then I did a segment with Shauna, and Shauna had 4 more things that were definitely personal finance related that it did not pick up on. Yeah. So I don't know if Grok's even read the whole bill.
Yeah, fair. It's funny. Or it's like, it felt like it wanted a shorter list. It's like, give me the elongated list.
That's like, I guess you have to like download the bill and then upload it in Grok and say, read this to make it more accurate. Cause I think it was just probably pulling it from other people's posts.
Right.
And not that document itself.
Yeah, I mean, that would be one massive PDF.
Right.
Like, holy bananas. So.
You probably have to have a Super Grok membership or something
the premium
to actually upload
plus. So, but anyways, that's kind of a wrap on the Big Beautiful Bill part. Again, it's growing up. This was, in some sense, pork that got thrown in the bill. But we'll get to it here in a few minutes, but there's more crypto specific stuff that Congress has been working on that's been exciting.
So the stablecoin bill.
Yes.
So that's called
the Genius Act.
Genius Act. Why is Genius all caps?
It's an acronym they've been using, and admittedly, I don't know if it actually means anything or they're just referring to the bill as that. So we haven't recorded in almost 2 months because I was sick a month ago. But so what happened in the meantime is the Genius Act was first in committee in the Senate, and then it went to Senate vote. It failed the first time. It came back and kind of a do or die type moment. It did end up passing. And now it's waiting on the House to vote.
Okay.
This is the week of July the 14th, and it likely is going to be brought up for House vote this week. It sounds like it likely will pass.
Yeah.
The House is a little bit trickier of a scenario than the Senate was.
What's the big takeaway there?
The big takeaway is this basically puts basic legislation in place for stablecoins. It kind of says how they have to be run, how they have to store their assets, what can actually back a stablecoin. It can't be Bitcoin. It has to be dollars or treasury type products. And just generally, like, you can think of this as the most basic Lego block from a legislation perspective.
Sure.
For crypto. The market structure bill, which we'll talk about in a minute, kind of starts to build upon that because some stuff, stablecoins could be used in DeFi and some other stuff that will be part of that bill.
Yeah.
But, it's just moving along. Trump has said he'd wanted this on his desk before the August recess. It looks like it might make it. I'm still kind of like, I have too much PTSD from the past of Congress saying they're going to do something with legislation and not happening.
Yeah.
But it looks like we might be getting this one done. Whether it happens before August, I don't know, but it does seem likely. So
how does that really affect investors though?
Again, I don't think this particular bill is
it's more just putting guidelines on stablecoin.
Right. It starts to put guidelines, and then it helps them put guidelines around the whole industry with the market structure bill.
Which we're talking about next.
Yes. So it's no different than just kind of having basic rules, basic traffic laws, and now we're going to have a more thorough set of traffic laws when the market structure bill comes along.
Before we jump back into the episode, do you know if you are ready to take off and launch into retirement? Get your pre-retirement checklist, a free guide from Wiser Wealth Management. From cash flow to Social Security, we've got your countdown covered. Go to wiserinvestor.com/guides to download your free guide today. Now let's get back to the episode.
So the market structure bill, what are the takeaways there?
Yes. So the market structure bill, we'll talk about the timeline first, and then we can kind of go into some details. So the bill should be introduced after the August recess. Before the August recess. Markup done in late September, and potentially done by the Senate by late September. So the idea that we had both of these done by the end of the year 2 or 3 months ago seemed like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Now it seems like a decent reality that's coming down the pipe. The market structure bill is going to put into place who governs this stuff. In the past, before this administration, the SEC was kind of using a heavy hand trying to expand their turf and saying everything was a security. We've talked a lot about this.
Right.
Now, I think it's more likely that it's a combination of the SEC, the CFTC. I don't think a third agency kind of gets in the mix at all. The Treasury has kind of stuck its hand up a little bit about stablecoins. I don't think that that's going to be granted. I think they're going to try to keep it a little more simple, at least from the read that I've done at this point. But again, it helps define what's a security. I know the SEC is trying to do some work around. Hester Peirce, one of the commissioners, is pushing for what would be called like a safe harbor. Would allow a token potentially up to 2 years from launch to kind of get its ducks in a row to start to prove some decentralization. Because when they launch, admittedly, they're securities. Like there's literally probably one guy that clicked the button on the computer to say go. So, and then it progresses from there. And as tokens get dispersed or whatever the tokenomics are of that chain, it goes from being, in many people's opinion, going from a security to a commodity or some other form, maybe some hybrid form of those two.
Yeah.
So it puts rules around that. And what's really cool is the industry and the government, so the SEC and the CFTC seem highly collaborative right now. We're coming out of a phase of 4, 5, 6, 7 years where it was very combative.
Yeah.
So we can't count our chickens before they've hatched here, but they seem like they're incubating well.
Right.
So
So the market structure bill sounds like that's what's really going to give us more of the roadmap and make everything legit. It puts everything we've been asking for the last 5 years
or more. Yeah.
Kind of comes full circle here. And obviously it would make it harder for future administrations to walk it back.
Right.
And if you had a different SEC chair,
right,
then they wouldn't have the authority to do the things that have been done in the past.
Right. And part of that comes down to what makes it in the bill and I guess separately, what does the bill give leeway to the agencies for rulemaking?
Yeah.
Because the rulemaking is where we can have a wild hair SEC decide that, the rules were wrong before we're changing the rules.
Yeah. Correct.
So that's where the risk comes. But again, we also have a lot of representatives in Congress that don't understand this stuff. So I'm not sure I want them writing the rules either. So there's like this very fine line that has to be walked right now.
Yeah.
And I think at some level you get precedence the longer you go along in a rule, almost in some sense becomes law.
Yeah.
Because there's, I guess, some gravity behind it.
That makes sense.
But yeah, we're moving along. This market structure bill, I think it's safe to say, will be the moment where crypto arrives. It can be used by banks in the US. It can be used by businesses. Right now, there's most outside of startups, these institutions are keeping it at arm's length.
Right, because there's severe penalty to pay for dabbling in it.
Exactly.
Which is about to be not that case at all.
Right. It's going to flip and all of a sudden got the rubber stamp of approval. So, it almost doesn't feel real because you've been through so much of this the other direction, but it's getting close. So.
Let's talk about crypto IPOs. So these are crypto-based companies that are now going public.
Yep.
I'll skip down to the second one real quick. Grayscale is going to file with the SEC. I don't know why, but why would anybody buy the Grayscale stock? That doesn't make sense to me.
So they have trust and they have ETFs.
Yeah.
So they have fees that they're gaining.
That's true. Maybe the company's good because they make so much money doing this, but to invest in it, maybe that's not the best.
Because invest in their products.
To buy the product. I just know that they're the most expensive ones. Like, why would you do that when you go to Bitwise and you get it for fractions to the dollar? You know?
I mean, like less than 20% of the cost of the other one. So
right.
It's a good question.
They're looking for the payday, the IPO payday.
Yes, the founders are definitely looking for an exit strategy. That's really, I think, what the important part of the Grayscale one is. When I saw it, like I was surprised, but also I was like, no, not too surprised. Mike Norvitz is like he's the guy that founded it, and I guess as a former founder myself, like it's a you appreciate the hustle the guy went through, but I just don't like him as a person personally. But anyways, politics aside, it's a I guess he's put in the time, so. I think the one that's more interesting to talk about though is Circle. So Circle is the largest US-based stablecoin, USDC. They have, I think we talked about it in the last podcast, or maybe it was the one that I was sick that we were going to talk about it on. But we so they had said they started their IPO process. Ripple came in, and Ripple was trying to purchase or buy them outright. Circle originally was trying to IPO. The on the street, the rumor was between $7 and $10 billion valuation. Okay, Ripple had come along and negotiating. They said, "Oh, we'll pay $5 to $8 billion." At one point, the rumor, which seemed at the time absolutely bananas, that they offered $20 billion. Obviously, it didn't happen. Circle is now public. Okay,
right.
Holy bananas! Did the stock go on a tear at launch? So. It priced at $31 a share.
Mm-hmm.
It opened at, I think, in the high 60s. So 100% pop immediately.
Yeah.
And then in the preceding couple weeks, it ran all the way up to $298.
Wow.
It's granted, it's not been open for 12 months, but its current PE ratio is 2,400.
Jeez.
Like it makes internet stocks seem like a bargain.
That's price to earnings. You're buying it 2,400 times its earnings. That's,
right.
That's
basically 2,500. And here's the thing: is what you start to wonder, like, well, where do they make money? They offer a stable coin that is only worth $1 every time you buy it,
right.
in theory.
Right.
So the way these stablecoin companies or issuers are making money is they hold the assets, in this case, treasuries, dollar equivalents, and they're getting interest.
Yeah.
Right now, we have a relative, I mean, granted, not long term, but in the last 20 years, we have a high interest rate environment.
Right.
When that comes down, because it will,
right.
like the margins on this business get squeezed. Yeah. The other thing that a lot of people don't realize about this is Circle, I think it's just over 50% of their revenue is contractually obligated to go to Coinbase, because Coinbase has been a big pusher of using stable USDC.
Yeah.
So 50% of your profit immediately is out the door.
Are there other verticals that this company might create that would push that valuation? Maybe somebody knows something.
They must be really creative, because I haven't come up with it. Right. And it just seems bonkers to think that investors are bidding this up. If you want to have equity exposure to the crypto industry, there's very few options, and maybe that's the reason.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Coinbase, you have Circle. I guess you could also buy into Square.
Sure.
They have a little bit of crypto exposure, but they're more traditional payments. There's not tons of options. PayPal, but they have a stable coin that no one uses. So I don't know. It just seems weird. At this point, so it was up at 298. It's at $198 as we speak right now. It's kind of been in this channel of 170 to 200. At some point, you would think that the market wakes up and just kind of does the math on this and be like,
yeah,
what's going on? But we'll see. There's other companies thinking about going public. I've heard Kraken is about to file. Kraken's another exchange. Another big one that will be interesting to watch. I don't think that they're going to be this year. Probably next year is when Ripple decides to do it. They likely potentially have a bigger valuation than Coinbase, because as of yesterday, Coinbase now has $100 billion market cap.
Okay.
It has almost done a full circle from in Circle, not the stablecoin company, but it's done full circle from their IPO in March or April of 2021.
Right.
They were super high. They came down way low. They were down 90% from their peak. Yeah. Now they're back up, because I actually own some Coinbase stock, and I went back. I'm like, oh, I'm almost back to even.
Almost back to even.
Yeah.
There was a lot of negative crypto news that happened.
Yes, a tremendous amount. So, but anyways, you're just going to see more of these companies going public. There's a lot of them that have been waiting for a more favorable environment. So,
yeah. Speaking of favorable environments, let's talk about SEC and Ripple. Is this done now? Is it now closed, and are they having trouble buttoning this thing up?
Well, I think there's two answers here. They did have some trouble buttoning it up. It didn't button up the way that SEC and Ripple wanted. But I believe that this is probably our last time talking about this. We've talked a lot about this.
Right.
So rewinding a little bit, the SEC and Ripple under this new administration, obviously a little more friendly. They got together, and Ripple's $125 million fine was reduced. The SEC agreed to reduce it down to $50 million. And the injunction that Ripple was going to have on them about selling securities, which basically says, I'm not going to break the law. Okay, that's kind of a silly one, but whatever. They were going to suggest the court remove that as well. Those are the two headlines of it. Ripple and the SEC were in agreement. They had to go back to the court and ask for what they call an indicative ruling, basically asking the court to amend what the court thought was best and say, this is what we think is best. Court, can you please accept this?
Yeah.
Highly unusual. Sure. And the first time they went back, the Judge Torres was like, there's not enough details here. Buzz off. They had the ability to come back again. They added more meat to the bone, came back, and she's like, too bad. She's like, in some way, you can kind of side with her. The SEC effectively wasted 4 years of her life.
Right.
Maybe she's a little irritated about that.
Sure.
So it kind of got to the point where all of a sudden, what did they do? The SEC and Ripple have both said that they're going to drop their cross appeals. This thing is dead at this point. Ripple's going to pay the $125 million fine, which the money was already sitting in there in escrow. And the injunction stays in place. Again, the injunction is rather immaterial. It sounded more scary, I think, than it really was, because it basically says you're not going to sell unregistered securities without first telling the SEC. Well, duh.
Right. Which is the law anyway.
Which is the law. Yeah. Right. So anyways, yes, this thing is done. The SEC, the commissioners still have to vote on this, but it sounds like this is a done thing at this point. If anything else comes up, I would be shocked. And I'm happy to never talk about this again.
Sounds good. Yeah. So as we wrap up here, we've had a big market rally in Bitcoin. Probably other cryptos as well. Is this a top? Is this the push higher? What do you think?
Not necessarily a prediction, but just more so what my gut tells me is I think that, so Bitcoin is at 117,000 today. It's been up as high as 123 in the last 3 or 4 days. It went from 105 to 123, like pretty much in a couple days. I think Bitcoin does push higher through the end of the year or towards the end of Q3 into Q4 type time frame. Then once that kind of rolls over, alts kind of get their chance to do their blow off top. And so not to say this is a buying opportunity, but it's a bit of a cooling off of some of the technicals on the charts. Some of them had gotten a little overbought, but I think we're about to have some fun. So it's, I wrote in my newsletter back in the spring when things were going really well. It's like, this is why you buy into crypto. You don't buy into crypto for all the crap in between. The days where it's up 10, 20%, those are the fun days. And that's like why you put up with all the mess in between. So.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in learning more about Wiser Wealth Management or want to schedule a consultation meet with one of our fiduciary financial advisors, you can do so by going to wiseinvestor.com. You can also click in the episode notes to find a link to Robert's company, Teton Crypto Capital. We have other episodes related to this. Episode 281, crypto updates. We talk about tariffs, Ripple's victory, and what's next for investors. Episode 286, how can I evaluate crypto as a potential investment? Thanks for listening today, and we'll see you guys soon.